Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So this is where you can learn all about how to be a digital nomad and all the real talk about what it's really like and whether or not it's the right thing for you. So today we are actually going to be interviewing my life coach, Alice Dartnell, who is a fellow digital nomad, and we are going to be having a real talk. We're going to be spilling the tea on what it's really like to be a digital nomad and some practical tips on how you can actually create that optimum productive environment no matter where you are in the world. So before we get stuck in, if you like this video and if you like this channel, please go ahead and like and hit the notification bell so you get notified. I post new videos every Friday, and it's always nice to have new people come to my virtual living room, I guess. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. So before we get started with the actual topic, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, Alice, that would be lovely, so people can get an idea of who you are and what you do and how that connects to being a digital nomad.
Oh, amazing. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This combines so many topics that I love, like travel and being productive and time management. So I'm very excited to be here. So yeah, I am. I specialize as a life coach, specialize in time management, but not in the traditional sense. I specialize more in about energy management and mindset, because often our time management issues, they're not really time management issues, they're more energy management and mindset. So that's kind of where I help and support my clients so that they can create a life that they love. I call it a life by design, not by default. And I think the whole digital nomad thing fits perfectly in with that, because so many of us have increasingly realized that we are location dependent. And actually, if I want to create my life by design, maybe it's not stuck in one place. Maybe it's, going out there and seeing the world, but actually taking our work and our business with us. So very excited to be here on this chat today.
Yes, we are so excited to have you here too. So I suppose my first question is, and I think we'll just get really stuck into it, we'll get to the point really quickly, is why are you a digital nomad? Why is that lifestyle important to you personally?
Oh, okay, yeah, good question. So I've always loved traveling. I think I was 18 months old the first time I'd ever got popped on a plane. Obviously, I don't remember it, but my mum and dad just really passionate about traveling. My dad is English, my mum is Japanese. So I guess I got accustomed really, really young to just traveling the world. And my mum and dad both had like stereotypical like 9-to-5 jobs, not jobs that you could take abroad. And I loved travel so much. I remember being, God, as young as like 15, 16, knowing that I wanted to have my own business, but knowing that it had to be, and I didn't know what digital was back then, by the way, guys, we're going back 20 years. But I knew I wanted to be able to travel with the business. So that's that idea was parked for a really long time, because I didn't know what that was going to look like. But then when I started the business in 2020, it just made sense to me that it had to be online, it had to be digital. And actually, the pandemic has brought a lot of bad things, but I think it has brought some good things with it, which is this ability for us now to be in different parts of the world and connect via Zoom and actually expand our opportunities and allow us to be location dependent. So why do I want to be a digital nomad? Well, it's because of my love and my passion really for traveling, but also doing what I love doing, which is serving my business and serving my clients, and to be able to do that anywhere in the world is just epic.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think for me as well, it's always been, I've never really craved the kind of typical sort of corporate kind of like you have a big office. I've never wanted a big office. It's never been a goal for me. I've always wanted to just be, what if I could just sit in a garden and work? What if I could be anywhere and experience new cultures, experience different types of food? And yeah, so I think I never actually realized that it was possible. I do think that kind of digital nomad, especially remote work, has become more and more a thing in the last 10 years. Even, 15 years ago, it was a lot rarer that people even were able to do this lifestyle. It was more kind of people with higher up in different companies that were traveling for work, but they were still traveling to a place, but they were stuck in a conference room for 8 hours. So then what's really the point,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I definitely think if you're looking for the freedom and if you're looking for, being able to experience new things and being able to put yourself out of your comfort zone, then being a digital nomad is a great fit for you. But this kind of brings me to something I really wanted to discuss today with you, Alice, and kind of share with everyone watching, is the reality of being a digital nomad.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, especially if you're someone who likes, you know, likes Instagram or likes to watch YouTube, is a lot of the time we see these videos or pictures or reels of, you know, sitting on a beach with your computer, you know, sipping a nice cocktail, or, you know, you might see these adverts that say work 1 hour a day as a, you know, social media influencer, and all of this stuff. And, you know, the reality of being a digital nomad is quite different, at least in my experience. So I wanted to ask, you know, what is your experience of the reality of being a digital nomad?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked this question, because the word that I really picked up on that you were talking about just a minute ago, you know, in relation to like why I want to be a digital nomad, was the word freedom. And that's the key word for me, because it isn't that I'm lazy, I don't work hard in my business, you know, it's just the freedom to do stuff. And you're totally right. I think back in the day where, yes, people maybe did travel for work, but they would travel on a business class flight to New York, do the meeting, maybe get one sightseeing and then fly home again. For me, that's not what I was after. And for me, it's more about the freedom. So the ability to go to a particular place or country and go for a month, because yeah, I'm still working full time, but it means in the evenings and weekends, I might be able to go see the sites, whereas I would never be able to do that if it was like a 10-hour flight, for example. You know, you can't hop there for the weekend. So I think the key word is freedom, because actually the flip side of that is exactly what you're asking now, is what is the reality of being a digital nomad. And I think we have to be very realistic about that, because it isn't all just watching sunsets, sipping cocktails, sleeping in, and you know, that's the Instagram version. And actually it is quite hard work, and it takes a lot of planning, and I think it takes a lot of communication as well. So I've recently just got back from Cambodia, where I was there just under a month, and again, I was working full time. So on top of working full time, I'm trying to see my parents, sightsee, all that kind of stuff. So for me, it allowed the freedom to go see my parents, because Cambodia takes a day and a half to get there. I'd never do it in a weekend in like your typical 9 to 5. But the realities of digital nomading is the fact that actually the time difference for me was 7 hours. So that was an absolute bugger to try and honor the diary and the work commitments that I'd already had, and also get used to that. You know, you're constantly counting on your fingers 7 hours and stuff. And change can be really hard. Like, I love traveling, but ironically I am someone who is really bad with change. So and you have to remember that, like, there is a bit of an acclimatization period, and also traveling is exhausting. Like, I don't know about other people and your listeners, but for me, I do find traveling quite exhausting. Like, especially, you know, you've got transits. You know, for me to get to Cambodia, I passed through 5 airports. Like, it was absolutely knackering. You're constantly on alert, on the go, changing your watch for the time difference, making sure you don't miss the next plane. It is really difficult. So it's, you know, there is this Instagram sort of betrayal of it, but actually behind the scenes you've got to be aware of things like time difference, the acclimatization to change, the fact that traveling's hard. You know, if you're every few days going to be moving about, that is going to be knackering. You're going to have to factor that in, and again, it's all about that energy management. When are you going to replenish that energy? And also think about silly little, well, not even silly, but think about the logistics and the tech stuff that we don't think about. So I was really lucky in Cambodia. I'm staying with my parents. I know they've got good Wi-Fi, but I've also been in places where you expect there to be good Wi-Fi and then there isn't, or the electricity isn't strong enough because they've got a different type of plug. Or when I was in Valencia last year, my laptop died because it was too hot. And being British, living in London generally, I totally forgot about heat. And my poor laptop, I didn't have a fan with me. I wasn't looking after it properly. I took it to the beach, and the poor thing died because it got sand in it. It was overheated. So all these kind of things as well, I think we sometimes neglect and overlook, like the practical side of and the reality of being a digital nomad as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's my experience too, is, you know, when you're a digital nomad or when you do remote work, it's not that you're working less and you're just spending tons of time. I mean, yes, you are in a different location. So when you're not working, you do have the freedom to do all of these things, like
Yes.
go on some hikes or go surfing or meditate in the mountains or whatever it is that floats your boat. But you still have to actually do the work. And
Yes.
often because you're taken out of your environment that's kind of creating that sanctum, or that ease of kind of slipping into productive work, it can be a lot harder to actually get things done, and things can actually take a lot longer. And also you can really feel like you're missing out. I know recently when I was on a trip to Fuerteventura, you know, I was there with two friends, and I was working, you know, regular weeks, and they weren't. So they had a lot more freedom to go out for walks and go out for teas and, you know, go for a swim every now and again. And I was just on my laptop on conference calls pretty much a whole day. And because I work with a lot of American clients, it's, you know, in the night time, in the evening time. And I think that can be really draining as well. And sometimes, you know, you can feel like you're missing out. You know, you put this effort to get to this other location, you probably spent money on it, but then you can't really experience it as much as you would if you were just going on a holiday.
Yeah, yeah. And I
So
think it takes a lot of planning ahead as well.
yes, yes, you know, I know you're always on about like, oh, you know, make sure you plan time for your packing, and I'm like, you know, make sure you plan time for this or that, or, you know, and I always am like, yes, oh shit, I need to remember that. So yeah, but I think that's really, really true about, you know, of course, like, I'm not saying it isn't amazing to be able to, you know, I was just on the phone with my friend Beth, and she's in Barbados at the moment, and she's just there, you know, and there's just rainforesty kind of like monkeys in the background from her camera, and it's just like, that's amazing, you know. But I said, oh, are you enjoying your trip? And she was like, yes, but I've just worked since I've been here. I haven't even been to the beach yet.
Yeah.
And that is the reality, honestly, for most people. But yes, the whole weekend she can go to the beach, which is awesome, of course. So my next question is, and this one I think is some question that so many people ask me, and I see a lot as well, is how do you actually make money as a digital nomad? You know, how do you actually make that happen? Because obviously traveling is expensive. You know, rent, you have to pay for accommodation wherever you are. So how do you actually make that work for you personally?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because again, it goes to like the practical side of stuff. So there's kind of two parts to that. The first is like how to make money, so that you're bringing in an income, whether that's your business, work, whatever. But the second part to that is looking at your expenses. So let's go with the first bit about how to make your money. I mean, nowadays, because we have got so accustomed to being on Zoom, quite a lot of my friends who are in regular corporate jobs, you know, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, getting paid by an employer, so many of them are not going into the office. And I'm like, guys, why don't you go somewhere for a month? Because it doesn't matter to your boss if you're in Southwest London or Southeast Asia. Like, you know, this is your opportunity to like try something. So if you're in a position where you currently have a full-time job, you're not your own boss, have that conversation with your employees. Just ask, you know. I remember, oh God, maybe 7 years ago, so this is pre-Zoom, you know, pandemic, when we're all used to working from home, and I wanted to go to Japan, where my family are from, for 6 weeks, because I figured I have to go, I have to immerse myself, and I've only got a week's worth of annual leave left. It's not worth it. So I negotiated with my boss to carry on working my full 35 hours a week, but can I do it from home in Japan? And yes, it was a bit of a bugger because of time difference and stuff, but that allowed me the opportunity to immerse with this family, and I would never have had the opportunity otherwise. So it isn't just for people that have their own business. I think it is also an opportunity for people that are employed work as well. If you have got your own business though, start being creative and thinking outside the box. You know, how do I get what I do online? You know, how do I get myself physically online? So that, for example, as coaches, using the power of Zoom to deliver, not face to face, but on this kind of platform. You know, how can you just do what you do, but in a kind of in a place where you're not dependent on that exact location. Now, if you own a service-based industry that, or even, you know, something like a tea room or something like that, you may again have to get even more creative, because now you might have to start getting people to run the physical for you so that you can manage it elsewhere, or maybe you can start doing some more things online, like online shops, etc., to accompany your tea room, for example. So there's definitely ways around it, but I do think you have to harness the power of the internet and online, and perhaps even look into residual income streams as well, so that you're not physically having to be somewhere to get that money. That could be rental market, or that could be online courses or something. But then the second part of the question is looking at your own expenses, because yes, traveling is expensive, but often traveling is expensive when it's done in terms of a holiday. So when you go on holiday, you're in like, woo, yeah, week off. And like, you just go mental, you know, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear on this channel, but like, you're like, you know, let's go like have champagne for breakfast because we're on holiday. And you don't do that when you're a digital nomad, because you're still working your 9 to 5 or still working your business or whatever. So you're naturally not going to have that same holiday like money expenditure attitude, because you're not on holiday. But also the money that you spend, for example, I live in London, it's quite an expensive city. The money that I would spend on my weekly groceries, the weekly tube, the weekly coffees with my mates, work out what that comes to, and I guarantee that even if it's not 100%, it will probably be at least 70% of the money that you need to go location dependent and go somewhere else. And also, you know, if you're based in sort of like maybe UK, Ireland, America, these countries are pretty expensive. So try and choose somewhere that's a lot cheaper. You know, look at places maybe like Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe, those kind of countries where your cost of living, your bang for your buck is going to go so much further, because I think you could probably live on your income anyway, but be somewhere exotic.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, I think this is a really interesting one. I think it's the question I get asked the most. And I talk about this a lot more in my video on how to be a digital nomad in 2022. The link is below in the description. But I think one big thing I just wanted to add to what you said is make sure that you actually have a way. If you want to be a digital nomad, so you don't want to just be a backpacker or just be, you know, but if you want to be a digital nomad, make sure you actually have a way of making money before you go.
Yes.
You know, make sure especially if you have a business, and I think this is a big mistake that like I tried to make in the beginning, is right when I started my business, I was like, all right, I'm off on my digital nomad lifestyle. And then I had like staff to pay and things. It was like, oh crap, you know, now I have to like, the pressure is on. So I think get your business to a point where it's actually, you know, making a profit, where it can actually give you an income, where you're a bit kind of confident, and then go and be a digital nomad. Because in order to create something, you need stability, and it's very hard to create stability while you're traveling. So this kind of brings me to, I guess, my last question to you, Alice, today, which is how can we work from anywhere? How is it actually possible? So to, you know, work from bedroom, work from a living room, work from a co-working space, a cafe. What are some tips that you have to actually make that work practically?
Yeah. Such an important question, because it touches on what you were just saying. Stuff like, all right, I'm off, I'm digital nomading, and it's like, oh, I haven't got my systems in place. That bit is so important, like that stability. Stability doesn't necessarily mean the same thing every day, but it's having the system and structures in place. And I think that's a really important point that you make, because that's it, you've packed your stuff, you're off for a month, 2 months, a year, whatever. But if you haven't got your systems in place, if you haven't got your structure in place, it's going to be so hard. So some of my tips around how to do it, how to work anywhere, whether it's your bedroom or, you know, Barbados, it always, for me, always comes back down to this, but you've really got to plan ahead. So really look at your calendar. When are you working? Plan backwards as well, because if you are working in a world where Monday to Friday is the norm, and you're taking Thursday, Friday to go to the beach, well, actually that project needs to get done by Wednesday. And if you're relying on other team members, well, you need to tell them Monday about it, because when you get back online on Saturday, it's everyone else's weekend and the team aren't going to be there. So it's things like that you've really got to plan backwards. And also that will help you know what mode you're in. So it's really, and even if you work from home, this is really important. What mode are you in right now? Are you in work mode, or are you in play mode? And that's going to have a real impact on how you're going to show up, how you're going to focus, how you're going to feel about sitting on the beach right now, either with your laptop or with your bikini and your cocktail. Because if you're sitting there on your laptop begrudging it because you're like, oh, because you're not in work mode. Well, it doesn't matter where you're sitting in the world, you're not going to feel fulfilled. So definitely plan backwards. Definitely know what mode you're in as well. And this brings me on to something that I call the DMO, the daily mode of operation, which is, I'm not a fan of routine. I know I specialize in time management, but I'm really against routine, because the problem is, as soon as you take yourself out of routine, i.e. going abroad, that's it, things start to unravel. Your good habits unravel. So I'm big on having a DMO, a daily mode of operation. These are the things that you need to do every day to continue whatever it is you're doing, whether that's work or just showing up as you. So on my DMO, I include things like meditation, exercise, checking Instagram DMs. So it doesn't matter what I'm doing, where I am, those are the kind of things, like a checklist, that I want to incorporate every day, and I'll plan those things in. So it's, I always talk about the importance of planning, but I think it's really important as well when you are taking yourself out of your environment, what you're used to, you're taking yourself out your comfort zone. I think it's really important to just get really honest and real with yourself, plan ahead and decide and block out that time of when you're going to be doing something and not doing something, and being really strict with that. So when you've got that temptation of your friends being like, hey, let's go to the beach, you're like, oh, I've got a conference call right now, you know what mode you're in, and to have that discipline with yourself.
Yeah, awesome. I think it's so true to have that, that discipline with yourself and that structure. And also what you were mentioning about the awareness, of all the different interdependencies, that, I don't know if that's a word, but the different ways that different things are connected with one another, and how, everything is influencing another thing. So, like you're mentioning, that awareness, okay, if I need a project, if I'm working on days that maybe my team isn't working on, I need to make sure to have it done before. So that I can meet the deadline, but also so that the communication is clear, and also factoring in for, revisions and miscommunication and people not replying. And, because I think something that I used to find really frustrating, which is not really fair on my team, but I used to find it really frustrating when, people didn't respond really quickly, because then it would be a whole other day before I would hear back from them because of the time difference. So I think also making sure that you're asking people in advance so that you have enough time, so that you're not kind of waiting for an answer on something, is really,
or let the team know, I'm going to be offline for the next 2 days because I'm going up the mountains, there's not going to be no Wi-Fi, or actually I'm making a really long leg back from Cambodia to London, it's going to take me 36 hours, so I'm on contactable. Just having that kind of communication with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, I know you have a book about how to work from home, is that right?
Yes.
So could you tell us about it?
So this book actually got created at the start of the pandemic in March 2020, when obviously we kind of went into that, oh my God, what is going on in the world? And we probably didn't know that it was going to be lasting this long, or have kind of this many maybe permanent effects of like people working from home. So the book is called How to Work from Home While Staying Productive, Healthy and Sane. And that last bit for me is really important, because working from home sounds like the dream, but again, like we said with the like digital nomad stuff, sometimes it's not what it's quite sort of hyped up to be on Instagram. Like there is some like behind the scenes reality going on. So this book is to empower people with really simple tips, but really actionable, to work from home in a way that maintains your productivity, also keeps you healthy as well, and also keeps your mental well-being in check as well.
Awesome. And where can we find this? Where can we buy it?
So this is a Kindle book. Yeah, it's a Kindle book. So head to Amazon and you'll find it there. And I'm sure we'll link it.
Yeah, I'm going to link it in the description below. So highly recommend you check that out. So Alice, thank you as always. You're an absolute legend. Thanks for joining us today. And hopefully you found this beneficial to chat to someone else, to give us some real perspective on what it's actually like to be a digital nomad, some tips on how you can navigate that for yourself. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, please hit the notification bell so you get notified of future videos, and subscribe to my channel if you like the vibes. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and we will see you all next week.